name is Dwight. My official title here at the Mckims Community Center is Executive Director. But briefly stating, I have a 46-year history of being involved in this organization. My first time coming to Mckims was back in 1963 and 1964. Being a person that grew up in Lafayette Projects, the notorious Lafayette Project, I discovered Mckims as a means of survival, believe it or not. It was the interest of the wrestling program that got me here. I came to Mckims to learn how to wrestle so I could protect myself living in the projects. And also the mere fact that when you lived on the 7th floor and the elevator came down and you were only going to allow 8 to 9 people on that elevator, and it was 12 or 15 there, you had to learn how to push your way to the front. So wrestling was a good vehicle for me to come here at Mckims. My brother also came here, and we became the famous Warm Brothers. You didn't want to mess with us because we were pretty proficient at wrestling. Back there in those days, a good old street fight was a good old street fight. And wrestling gave you the tools to do that.
Okay. What some of the, as you took upon, how did you get into becoming the executive director of Mckims? I mean, what was that transition like?
Well, becoming the executive director, believe it or not, this was not something that I thought I was going to be doing. I thought that my life was going to be, I was either going to be driving a transit bus, I was either going to be working at the post office, I was going to be a school teacher, and I even had a job at a bakery. But as it had, God had other plans for me. I tried to leave this organization twice, and each time that I attempted to leave, it didn't work out for me. So I can only say that I'm here as a result of God's will. I've always tell people that I'm just here to get things done. That's basically it. Becoming executive director was a requirement because all of my predecessors were ministers and college graduates. So back in the 70s when they left, the last director left, I had an opportunity to attend Morgan State College where I went for 4.5 years and got my degree. Then I qualified as being able to run the organization as executive director. So
what keeps you here after all these years?
Well, the thing that really keeps me here, believe it or not, I've always had a passion for people. I specifically have a passion for children. Mckims is a type place where its history, its existence, believe it or not, the building that you're in now is 187 years old. So we've had a diverse community surrounding us, a continuous diverse community of individuals of all types, rich, poor, you name it. And there's always a need to have a place where a 9-year-old young man or young lady can come and get some guidance and get the foundations for a better life. What we basically try to do here at Mckims is we have a motto: structure, discipline, and love. And the love we refer to, that is that of Jesus Christ.
So what is some of the, you didn't have a lot of kids come through. I mean, tell us some of the names of some of the kids that you didn't see like when they were, the smallest, and what are some of the success stories?
Well, I'll just name a few success stories. One, to be specific, is a young man by the name of Willie Bam Johnson. I remember when he first came to me many, many years ago as a youngster, and he walked in the building and said, "Look, I want to be a martial art instructor." And I said, "Boy, you don't have no qualification to become a martial art instructor." And I kind of gave him the disc. And a staff member of mine, Mr. Kenneth Parker, heard the conversation and actually went out and saw Mr. Bam and some kids doing some gymnastic moves. I mean, these kids were bouncing off of box springs and mattress and having a good time. So Kenny decided that he would go and talk to Bam and take him under his wing, and he did. Kenny, I did not know, had a background in martial arts and also the gymnastics. So that was one of the success stories. And as you'll find out, that Willie Bam Johnson is noted all over, I want to even say the world, for his accomplishments in the martial arts. We have other individuals that are on the police force. We have principals, we have lawyers, We have kids that have won national championships in wrestling. Believe it or not, the smallest NBA ball player, the first smallest NBA ball player was Muggsy Bogues, Tyrone Muggsy Bogues. Well, believe it or not, Tyrone used to come here as a kid. He was a member of my wrestling program. And he was a phenomenal athlete. And I said to Ty, I said, look here, boy, you're too little to play basketball. Stick to wrestling. You'll never make it. What did I know? Ha, ha, ha.
And what about, so when you talk about those success stories, I mean, what was it like? I mean, Mckims is still standing. And you hear all these stories now about the violence in Baltimore City. But let's take Lafayette Projects. Was it always a bad place, a violent place?
No, believe it or not, I am an original project kid. I am an original Lafayetter. I moved to Lafayette Projects when it opened up in 1955. We moved from West Baltimore to east side of town. The Lafayette back then were high-rise condominiums, believe it or not. The elevators were new, the grass was new, we had all new apartments, and all the above. But what happened is by the time I turned 13, the whole situation changed. Once upon a time, the tot lot area was my play area. By the time I was 13, the fenced-in tot lot area was almost like a prison. And what happened then was that was the era primarily around the Vietnam War, and the influx of drugs became a major factor in the community. After that, it sort of went downhill. And also the mere fact that public housing back then was only designed for temporary housing for families. The number of kids increased in the families, and there were many, many single parents and things like that. So it was a mixture that was doomed to fail. And you basically can't have thousands and thousands of folks living on top of one another and expecting them to get along in such a way. I used to always say, there's two different attitudes. There's the folks that lives in the high rise, and there's the folks that live in the low rise. Well, what's the difference? The folks that lived in the low rise had a front door and a back door. We in the high rise, we only had one door out. So we had to go past everything that was existing in the neighborhood.
I mean, what was it like for you to still be in this building and to still have hope for these kids when at a time it was a nice place to live, but all of a sudden gunshots, murders, I mean, Baltimore being one of the, right now, everybody talk about it being a violent and the crime rate being bad, but I think that, I mean, would you even agree that this was going on even back in the early 80s?
Yeah, it was going on in the 80s, by all means. This is not new to us. Like I say, my earlier days coming to Mckims was around 63, 64. I mean, there were some things going on, but we didn't have the internet, we didn't have the TV, we didn't have the radio. So, believe it or not, in some areas, crime is a business. It's a big business. I always say, you know, for every 13-year-old kid that gets locked up, he or she employs about 20 people as a result of that one lockup incident. And if you go through the chain, you'll see what I'm talking about.
So if we wanted to send any message, I mean, we talk about, this documentary is about, it's called Harm City Lafayette Projects. And they got murder more, they got some of the most drastic negative names for this city. I mean, what message could we send to someone? I mean, because it's about change. What do you see Mckims continuing to try to do to empower and help these youth make better decisions and have a better life and live past 29?
Well, you know, most of the things that kids experience on the table of violence, that is sort of things that they are exposed to at a young age. Now, what we do here at Mckims, we try to lay the foundations of doing the right thing. There's rules, there's regulations, there's discipline, there's challenges, there's obstacles that you have to achieve. So we place them via sports or the after-school activity, or even in some cases being a part of the local church that's associated with Mckims. Kids need to see that there are other ways of solving problems and other ways of dealing. And also the end result is, if you learn how to follow the rules, don't think that everything is doable. You know, some kids don't have the foundation of good parenting. They don't know right and wrong. You know, here we're able to help them to do that. And the beauty of Mckims is that we've been here so long that many of the young folks here, that come, their mothers and fathers, and even their grandparents participate at McKim. McKim has always had this sacred kind of respect amongst this community. It continues to have it, even today, amongst the homeless individuals as well as the kids in the after-school initiative.
So how have you, the last question, how have you been able to stay focused? And I mean, I don't recall ever seeing you get mad or get upset for all my years being around here. Now, because when you talk about being an example, you see so many people that are leaders, but if you're going to tell a kid, be respectful, don't cuss back at your adults, but then when the kid looks around and you don't think nobody's watching, they begin to be worse than the kid. What has been, I think, the driving force on keeping you on point and not crossing that line to be a bad example for the youth?
Well, number one, I demand respect of the kids, and I give it back to them. That's the key. I mean, I could walk out here on the basketball court and a bunch of kids could be out here playing right now, and the four-letter words would be in abundance. I would just politely walk by and say, hey, you guys don't have to speak that way, you know, I mean, and in most cases, if they know me, okay, Mr. Dwight, and now they even say, okay, sir, but it's one of those things that if they don't see me in a drug environment and being disrespectful, then they don't have an example to follow. So I sort of lay my lifestyle out the same way. I know even at the drug scene, two of my brothers had an experience with that, but my commitment to Mckims, I was not exposed to it. And that was one of the things that I've always prided myself to, you know, being able to identify with the kids. Even though I put on a suit and tie, I can put on a pair of jeans, I can get out on the basketball court, I can get on the rest of the mat, I can listen to some of their stations of music, you know, and all those other things. I sort of sometimes meet kids right where they are.
Well, thank you, Mr. Dwight. That was really powerful.